was sitting in my room quite unprepared, and for several years I've been leading a rather depressed life, same old routine. And I started to tune into what he was saying. At one statement that he made, I suddenly was thrown into a state of ecstasy. It was so intense I could hardly bear it. Without going into a great deal of detail, over the next several months, I was went into the throes of a deep kundalini experience. Some of the visions which I had were so intense that I thought I was at the verge of death at one moment, being able to encompass the entire universe. Then I went into this great high, and suddenly the thing started to pull downward. And where I'm now, because of this inability to function, because of the experience, just completely overwhelmed me. I lost my job because of it, and in a state of such great depression that I really quite beside myself. And I think you already answered my question in the previous caller when you're talking about not experiencing the light, but being the light.
I hear your story and your predicament perfectly, and it's hard when you're in the middle of a roller coaster to be able to see the entire implications of the roller coaster trip and to understand the way in which all of this is part of the process of your getting yourself straight. Because when you first connect, the thing is so overwhelming, and especially when you connect to other planes of consciousness, which you obviously were ready to do by having natural kundalini and so on, that it's so overwhelming. You get very attached to other planes of consciousness, and you let this one sort of fall apart. And that's the kind of dropping out or the moratorium period that some people can dance right through, keeping it together. Many people cannot. Then you begin to see that holding on to any plane at all is another trap. I mean, when you go into a mental hospital and sit with a psychiatrist and a patient, you see in a way they're both crazy because each of them thinks his plane is the only reality, while in fact they're just two different planes of reality. And so the process of bringing it together so that you keep, like I always say to people, don't forget your zip code. That is, keep your consciousness going at every level. I mean, you're also, like for me, I'm a Jew and I'm an American and I'm a Westerner and I'm a technologist and I'm a scientist and I'm a pilot and I'm et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And each of these things has its own kind of karmic responsibility. And you got to live it out on all planes. But it takes a while to get it together. And
I have not been doing any kind of form of meditation.
Right.
Do so.
I think that to the extent you can do a little bit, it would be useful just to keep you centered, to deal with these extremes of emotion and the highs and the lows.
Ironically, at one point I was beginning to see the reality as it is, so intensely beautiful, no visions.
I understand.
This went on for a period of about several weeks.
Sure. Just keep remembering there's a very great tendency to get hooked to experiences.
Right. But then everything started to appear hideous.
Right. Well, that's another experience. In Buddhism, that's called, when you do meditation, there's a moment where you are meditating behind your own thoughts and you see the creation of each thought. And then you are aware of what Jesus meant when he said, look, I am making all things new. It's as if the universe is being created everywhere you look and it's all fresh and beautiful. Then you get to a place a little later on where you experience the end of each thought form, and you see everything decaying and dying and horrible and suffering, and you've got to be able to say yes and that too. That's the full compassion, to be able to look at the entire universe, even the horror show, and say, yeah, right, and here we are.
Hey, do you listen to